We're late. We're
Still
live.
called Women to Be.
And we're
That's-
live. You've been hanging out with the hippies on Vancouver Island already? You don't even know what time it is?
Well, Newfoundland and Victoria. I mean, we got this half an hour thing going on. Yeah.
Do you?
No.
Oh, we're live. Holy smokes, I didn't even know.
Oh, that just happened.
Hey, Gordon McCallum, First Foundation, CMHTV. You're on with the guys. We're talking all kinds of stuff today. Scott, Jackson, Rob, how are you guys? How are you doing?
It's good to be back. It's terrible. I didn't forget it was Thursday, but until Jackson popped up the little message saying CMHTV, I had my head in a big pile of paperwork.
Well, don't feel bad. Jackson doesn't know what time it is. So if you don't know what day it is and Jackson doesn't know what time it is,
I honestly thought we were 10 minutes to start time and not realizing we actually started 10 and not 10:30. But that's my time. So, yeah, we're 20 minutes late. But, hey, I'm on the Twitter, so hit me on hashtag CMHTV if you want to talk on the show.
Better late than never. Better late than never. So we had, just to recap for our guest joining us today, we had a distinguished guest, Hallie Strandland, on with us a couple weeks ago, and great lady. Obviously, it was a pleasure to have her on the show. But had we known she was going to be inducted into the Canadian Mortgage Hall of Fame, and at such a young age too, it's quite impressive. The Canadian Mortgage Hall of Fame recently here in Montreal at the Camp conference. Hallie was inducted, so congratulations, Hallie. I know I'm not the first to congratulate you on that, but well deserved. And feels pretty cool to have a Hall of Famer on the show.
It certainly does. Yeah, no kidding. It certainly does. Hey guys, hey viewers. It's been probably a year worth of Thursdays from the last time I was on an episode, but I'm coming to you live from my cell phone. Hallie, I missed your show with Hallie. Hallie's a good sport. I spent a lot of time with Hallie in Vegas at the Verico event. Good sport. What a professional and wealth of knowledge. So yeah, awesome that she's been inducted to the Hall of Fame next year. Any predictions? Me?
Yeah, you're next.
Jackson?
Rob's next.
Jackson, maybe? The Kilted one. So, hi everybody, and yeah, good to be back in black.
I think Ron Butler's due. Is he, or is Ron? You think?
Oh, now there is $1,400 worth of flight and hotel I would gladly pay to see and hear that speech when he gets inducted. Let me tell you guys, you guys are all a bunch of nitwits. Like, it would be awesome. I love it. I would totally go.
Maybe maybe Ron doesn't want to be in the Mortgage Hall of Fame because then it would be like getting absorbed by the man or something like that. He'd have to be part of the club then.
No. I'm gonna object. A couple of free wobbly pops and a good dinner and a night out and an award to put on the mantle. I think Ron would be all over that. I love it. I would totally be there, front row center.
Could be. So since the last time we chatted, there's been a lot of news. It seems like all of the big announcements, all of the big news, everything that sort of the big annual surveys and things like that, coincidentally come out right around the time of the camp conference, which I sadly was not able to attend. Was anybody here able to go? Rob, you're the closest to it. Did you get out to Montreal? No. Well, Montreal would have been awesome.
I gotta be honest with you. It would be great to go out and hang with people in the business, like the four of us had the pleasure of doing earlier this year. I gotta be so honest with you, though. I just don't see the value in going out and listening to Malcolm Gladwell or a friggin' astronaut or a football player. I mean, I've always been open about this. I'm not discrediting what camp does for our industry or the work that they do for us behind the scenes. That's not what I'm talking about. I just think like I would rather spend 3 days listening to super broker after lender than having camp pay big bucks to hear Terry Bradshaw talk about, you know, how many footballs he's tossed and how that brings your team together and teamwork and let's go get them. And, you know, after that, you just got a bunch of motivated, a bunch of motivated people to keep it clean. I want to hear struggles. I want to hear successes. I get the most traction when I talk to people like Ron Butler, at an event.
Have you ever seen
when
Terry
I get to
Bradshaw's hairline? That's a struggle.
no, the last time I think Terry Bradshaw's hairline took off the same time his intelligence did. But anyway, that's another show. No, honestly, I'd rather sit down and have lunch with just a Dan Eisner, Ron Butler, Rob McLister, even some of the lesser known but extremely successful brokers. That's who I want to hear from. I want to hear their stories. And a little bit of a plug for Scott Peckford on I Love Mortgage Brokering, the podcast. Awesome podcast, because that's where it's really diving deep into those topics I love to talk about with people. So no, I didn't attend the CAM conference. Short story. Cool. Long story, short story.
Well, Peckford's a guy we got to have on the show again, because you're right, he's doing the I Love Mortgage Brokering podcast. I know Mike Cameron's doing a podcast. Everybody's gone audio again. It's like totally 2004, but hey, it's got its place. It's cool. Jackson, you know Scott well. You're working with him now out in the BC area. Have you been on the I Love More? I haven't had a chance to listen to one yet. He asked me to be on one a while ago, and we haven't been able to get our schedules synced up. But what's the format like with that program, and what do you guys like about it?
Yeah, it's good. I agree with Rob. I'd much rather spend my time listening to people who are in the industry and can speak intelligently on building a business than, Terry Bradshaw. Although Malcolm Gladwell is a beast, Rob. I don't know. The whole rah-rah team building thing doesn't work, but he's got some really good books and he's got some really good TED Talks. But no, Scott Peckford's doing a great thing where he's got the I Love Mortgage Brokering, and it's a very simple interview. It's about 20-25 minutes, and he just asks very pointed questions on, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've made? What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned in the industry? How have you grown your business? How have you been successful? And he's actually getting really successful brokers to interview with him, and it's pretty interesting when you listen through them and hear how different people have come to the same conclusions through different means. So yeah, it's cool, but.
Is that when you go through them, Jax? Are you finding that a lot of people are really coming to those same conclusions, or are you noticing a divergence in, that multiple different ways or approaches can work? Different people obviously have different strengths and weaknesses. Is there a theme that all roads lead down the same path, or are people finding success in different ways?
It's kind of a mix of everything. Yeah, everyone's got their own take, but yeah, it seems that a team approach really works. That you got. I think Scott nails it down when he says it's kind of like a soccer team. If you're not if you got one person, it doesn't necessarily make a soccer team. You kind of have to have the full team. And if you got somebody who specializes on corner kicks, well, that's great. That's all they do is corner kicks. So it's building out the team, and that's been a really good approach to building the business. But it seems like a lot of different people do different things, and yeah, but it's good information. It's good to hear from other people in the same industry.
Oh, it's nice that other people are. I'm glad to hear of others who are taking up the mantle. That I think not to take too much credit for us, but to start to do something like this for the industry, as opposed to having everything have to be a marketing attempt to get another deal in the door. It's nice to see that sort of industry participation, whether it's Mike, whether it's Scott, whether it's there's other websites that are doing it, Mortgage Resource, and what McLister's been doing with Canadian Trends, obviously, and Mortgage Broker News. So I think that's all of that stuff was basically non-existent 10, 12 years ago, 5, even 6 years ago. And the only thing out there that, in terms of voices in the industry, were industry associations. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, and I think the advantage of 2014 versus 2004 is that it's just like people haven't changed. The brokers haven't changed. Brokers haven't changed in the fact that they don't want to know what the next guy's doing or the next gal is doing. I think it's just technology's brought us that much closer that we're able to do this, and other people, I'm sure you guys have had the same, but I've had a lot of emails. I was on Peckford's podcast, and that was a joke. Like, I shouldn't be on there. I'm a nobody, but let's be honest. He invited me on, so I went on. But I got a lot of emails after that saying, you know what, God, thank you for being so transparent about your struggles, because it's good to know that I'm not alone. And that's what people need to understand, is that as much as we say it every time, it's a marathon, and it's good to know that as you're on that run, that marathon, it's good to know that like when you're running by the person with the cup of water, like ready to quench your thirst, it's somebody else that's already done that race, and they've said, hey, you're doing good. You're only 5K in. It's 25K run, or put that in perspective of years, 25 years, 5 years in, or whatever. Like you're almost there. You're almost over that threshold where the pain goes away, and you start to just kind of coast and build it up, and always stay positive. I think that's really important. So I think that's never gone away. It's just so much easier now. We don't have to see each other at trade shows and get each other for 5 seconds and write some notes down and make each other, it's so open now that we need to do that to build that market share back up.
Well,
so,
I think
yeah,
that's
awesome.
You make two really good points there, Rob. I think the technology bringing us closer. Obviously, Google Hangouts, the platform we're using, was brand new the day we decided to start our first Canadian Mortgage Hangout. So that's pretty cool. I'm waiting for the day when I'm really excited about the next level, which is us as holograms, and I think we can sit around the table. And I can have a nice holographic chat with Rob and Scott and Jackson
and Tupac. Tupac can holographically
appear. Tupac will show up. Yes.
Hello, Tupac on the show next week. Yeah, and we can do virtual fist bumps. I know Jackson doesn't like to blow him up, but when you're a hologram, who cares? So I think that could be a lot of fun. Now, the other thing you mentioned, Rob, is just about the encouragement and the emotional support for people who are going through maybe things you've already gone through, or the same things you are going through, or have recently been there and can provide some of their wisdom and things like that. And that's the only thing I would say about the conference, where maybe for us, we're at the point where we really want to know what's the next level for us as a business. We're established, we've been doing it a while. Sure, there are ups and downs and there are struggles all the time too, but we're not brand new. And I think the CAMP conference they have to appeal to a broad audience. And so they probably have to provide some mix of that enthusiasm, that hype, that leadership, or straight, stuff that transcends industries, right? Which is teamwork and enthusiasm and motivation. That transcends the guest.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
No, I was just going to say, I took shots there at camp for their people that they have speaking. I should back up a little bit. I think you're right. They could have had much worse speakers at the event, and it could have been a total waste of time. I think I'm just so used to now my personality and my mind frame the last 5 years of the marketing aspect of the business. The Gladwells, the Seth Godins, all of that stuff. I've done it. I've read it. I get it. I get that part. But you know what? For a huge segment of our industry, they still don't understand that. They're still chasing that realtor lunch, or all of that stuff. And I'm not saying that might not be significant, but they haven't really focused on making the client experience amazing and making your clients and your database work for you. So I think you know what, it could have been worse. Instead of Malcolm Gladwell, They could have had like a B or C list speaker. So good for them for having a good speaker.
It's tough. I actually I've got a lot of and Scott, you've probably been in all these things where you can never satisfy everybody completely.
Yeah, I'm kind of
right.
I kind of echo what Rob says. It's to kind of have that actually wait for these events.
I think Scott's internet connection is rerouted through Guelph and then rerouted through Barrie. Scotty, you're choppy as hell.
Speaking of technology, I wonder what hologram Scott would look like if his internet connection went down. Scott, we got none of that, so maybe type out your answer.
Okay, and now to Neil Armstrong. It's good for once that on this show, this nation coast-to-coast show, that I am not the idiot mucking up the interwebs. So, Scotty,
Scott,
there's egg on you now. But it hasn't cut out. We're still live.
build an airbox out of cardboard and a sock. You'll land safely in no time.
Yeah, by the way, on that, away from mortgages, who convinced these guys to go into space in a Shreddies box wrapped in tinfoil, pointing it at a float? And by the way, on that, totally off the topic of mortgages, but I'll somehow bring this back to mortgages. You watch. Remember when they landed a satellite on a comet that was traveling 35,000 miles an hour, and they actually landed it, and they launched the thing 10 years ago? So here's where I tie it back in super cheesy fashion. Just when you think that it's hard now, you've got to plan back to business planning. You got to plan today for 10 years away, for 5 years away, because those guys just didn't shoot that thing off into space and hope for the best. It was all calculated, and they did it. So kids, eat your vitamins, pray, and you can also land a satellite in your mortgage business.
Yeah, and stop whining about how hard it is to prove down payment and just get it done. That's a little perspective. Yeah, landed a comet. And yet Rob still doesn't want to see the friggin' astronaut, so he's kind of contradicting himself a little bit.
I don't care. I just don't care. Yeah, I don't care. Chris Hadfield,
right.
Good guy, good Canadian, positive role model for kids in science. I don't care.
Kids in science. And guitar players, too. A whole generation of upside-down guitar players now as a result of Mr. Hadfield. So, guys, on a serious note, though, let's talk a little bit about back to these surveys that came out and things like that. There's a CMHC came out with the 2014 Mortgage Consumer Survey. I'm looking at the online information gathering. This is a subject that we talk about a lot. What's the role? What's the future of the industry in terms of online advertising? What's the benefit to business owners and to the consumer when it comes to social media? All of that kind of stuff. And they've done a really nice job of condensing everything into a fairly readable infographic here. Was there anything that really stood out to you guys when you're reading this, and any surprises for you on the Mortgage Consumer Survey? By the way, I think Jax can share that link probably on Twitter, so people who haven't seen it yet can take a look. I know we're not the first on the subject, so maybe you've already seen it. But for me, I always find these interesting. I think there's a lot of different insights that we can gather from it, and I try to tie in our business planning into identifying the weak spots brokers have and seeing if we can overcome those. Any surprises for you, Scott, when you're going through the list here?
Okay, I'm going to try. Hopefully my internet's working. Maybe you can hear me. Maybe not.
Yeah.
I was a bit not surprised, but it's kind of interesting to read about how the basically broker share in use. So it's kind of showing like brokers presented an average of 2.4 offers per client, and it sounds, I don't know, that seems like for me it kind of seems like a lot. I mean, I know I'm not necessarily generally presenting more than usually one offer to a client, in terms of a commitment. It doesn't make any sense to send your files to 2.4 different lenders and go, here's your choices. We got to cancel one, but it seems like kind of a time and efficiency waste to me. I don't. That was kind of a bit of a surprise.
I suppose on that subject too. I mean, whether you're actually submitting to a lender or not, you may, if you have a pretty good idea that they're going to qualify with 2 or 3 places, I suppose you could present it. And there's probably some really good marketing psychology around that. I don't know it, but I think there's some pricing theory in there that you could go, well, this is the lowest price option, but it's got these limitations, and this is the best option, but it's got this price, and here's something in the middle. And it's kind of like how they price popcorn. You get 99% of the large when you buy the medium, or vice, I forget. There's some psychology behind some of that. I wonder that might not help or might not hurt us in terms of closing deals, especially if the client wants it. Wasn't there some research out a couple of years ago? Do you guys remember a year or two ago where they talked about how brokers wanted more, or clients wanted more offers from brokers, and they were expecting that, we weren't giving them that?
Wasn't that a camp report from a while ago?
Yeah, I think maybe that was Will Dunning had something on that subject.
A lot. You know what? The way I'm seeing the business now, it's not necessarily the offer. It's like you take what you can get a lot of times. I don't know about you guys' business, but this job has gotten, I say it every day, exponentially harder to do a mortgage. And let Rob jump in there though.
I think you're right, Scotty. I think we're now in 2014 and rolling into 2015. I think now we're all comfortably enough to sit down with our clients and get that initial consultation, whether it's over the phone or in person. We do everything in person here as much as we can anyway, but I think in that initial consultation you lay the groundwork, and you know what, we're good enough with our product knowledge now that we can kind of go, you're probably looking at this, and they go, oh, okay, really, what, we were thinking about this, and you go, no, that was 4 or 5 years ago. It's all changed now. So, you know, most mortgages aren't cookie cutter scenarios. I mean, it's actually a miracle when you actually get a cookie cutter, salaried income, good credit, no debt, down payment from own sort. Like, it's almost an anomaly now. You're just like, what? Oh, this is weird. So I think we do a good enough job. We do a good enough job to sit down and go, what do you want to do? Where are you at? What are you doing as far as employment? Blah, 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 blah. Paperwork, taxes, all that stuff. And you quickly go, I think this is what we're looking at. And they go, okay, great, just do it. Let's get her done.
One thing that really stood out to me in the mortgage process, part of this that is really disappointing, probably not that surprising, but the amount of time it took for a consumer to go through the process was 2.9 weeks on average with a lender, so presumably going direct to a bank or a credit union, and 4.6 weeks to deal with a broker. Now, this is bad news for our channel if it's true. But what we don't know is why.
What was the first figure?
2.9 when you're dealing with a lender versus 4.6 with a broker. Now, we don't know
the answer. I know the answer to that.
What's the answer?
Because if they're already doing their banking with that institution, chances are they're going to the institution that they're already using. Those institutions don't necessarily have to abide by, let's just say, the same water ringing, regulations that we have to. And if they're already doing their banking there, the client doesn't need to do anything. They have 90 days banking history. They have employment history on file. They have all that stuff on file. Like, to me, I think that's what it might come down to. I don't know what the other guys think.
Yeah, that's probably a good part of it. Or are we taking longer with a client to kind of pre-approve them and go through that whole process? Are we spending more time with that? It's hard to. It's kind of a bit the survey doesn't really kind of go, and is that like from start to finish, or where?
Right, and that's right? Yeah, that's a good point, Scott. It also doesn't indicate whether or not the consumer likes that or not. Now, I assume longer is worse because it seems less efficient, and from a business standpoint, it takes longer, and maybe the client gets more annoyed because we're taking forever. But maybe it's because we're providing better service. Maybe because we're providing them with more options. Maybe it's because, maybe that's wishful thinking too. I don't know. It's hard to.
You know, maybe you're looking at clients who are being a little bit more educated, starting the process with a broker, and then going into their bank for a second opinion. And the bank, like Rob said, having all of their information on file matches the rate, and they go, well, I'm just going to stay here. And the broker hasn't had any sales training to actually close that file. So. That might be.
I'm sure we've all lost a file where you spent literally weeks getting everything together. Self-employed person, we got to get T1 generals, you got to get notice of assessments. They have a balance on their taxes. They got to pay their taxes. So they spent. They're getting pissed off spending 3 weeks getting you everything together. They're all of a sudden mad at you because you're asking for everything. You take that nice tidy package that you need anyways. You go to your bank and they go, oh, we're done. We've all had that happen.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
Interesting to see some of the online stuff. Any thoughts on any of the? It says 78% of mortgage consumers researched online and visited different types of websites. 60% went to lender sites, 25% to broker sites, and 16 did both. The 16 that did both are really cutting themselves off. They're really limiting their search criteria. You'd think, hey, if you're only going to a bank site and a broker site 16% of the time. Seems like a missed opportunity. 73% of them used a mortgage calculator. Again, the lenders dominated. Only 15% accessed information on a mobile device. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think the reason why fewer people are not as many people are using the mobile devices as you'd expect is because the number of responsive sites or mobile friendly sites is still not great in our industry. Would you agree with that, Rob?
Yes, I agree. I also want to touch back with our good buddy Nick Bachusky. who's a solid dog out in the mortgage world. He had mentioned, I saw him post a comment about, I think it was Merix. Merix has just launched an app, maybe. So, it was in Mortgage Broker News, I think. Anyways, I think it was Merix that launched an app, and he commented on the article, great comment, where's the insurance premium? The insurance premium's never worked into those calculators. Where is it? It's nowhere. So does the client know that they got to take their purchase price minus their down payment, put the premium onto it, and then put it into the mortgage loan amount? Like, it's never in there. So I don't know what that's about as far as here's what I think, and I've always said this, and I'm going to stick to this probably as long as for the next week at least. I think you're up for two options in this business now, right? The first option is online leads. There was a great article that was an interview that I sent to Scotty. Maybe we can put it up in the show notes or on Twitter, but it was an interview with James Laird, who's now with Rate Hub, right? And the interview kind of broke down the fees that would be paid to acquire a lead and what the closing ratio is for the lead. So it's basically 9-to-1. For every 9 apps or phone calls you take, you're only going to get 1 with the traction there. And the average cost to acquire there is around, let's just say $650 as a ballpark, just to get that one committed because of all the other ones that fell off. So it's like 10, you got to get 10 to get 1, right? And then you start pricing down, you start chunking down the price. There's no room for profit. There's very little room for profit. There's very little room for error. So I think there's 2 ways you could do business. I think you could be online, which I mean, there's Dan Eisner said, if you're not 1 or 2, just like the great GE CEO, if you're not 1 or 2 in this industry, stop. Yeah, Jack Welch, just stop. If you're not 1 or 2, you're never going to be 1 or 2. You're not going to be 3 or 4 or 5. They're going to eat you alive. So I think the best model, is to get them in. What's that?
Tell that to Honda.
Honda car manufacturer?
I mean, if you're not 1 or 2, just stop. If that was true, Google would never have beaten Microsoft, and I know what he's saying in the short term, but I think if you have more to offer and you have a disruptive technology or a disruptive business model, then he should know. He wasn't number 1 or number 2.
Who's
5 years ago or 10 years ago?
Dan? Yeah, but nobody. Who else was in that market though? It seems to me like he was 1 or 2 to the right off the hop.
And he changed his business model and disrupted things, and that's good. But saying give up when if you're not 1 or 2, now if you can't, if you don't feel like you can get there legitimately, then fine. That's another thing. Go ahead,
I mean, that's what I mean. I don't mean give up and crawl into a corner and start the crying game song. I think it's just I think it's you're not, if anybody in 2014 is thinking about building a rate comparison website to get tons of volume from that market, I just don't know that you're going to get that volume. You might get 1 or 2 leads out of it.
We're in the wrong country for that anyway, because there's not a big enough population to support a bunch of those. But yeah.
Hey Rob, I put the article you referenced on Twitter. So
awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Perfect. Lots of interesting stats. I'd encourage anybody who's viewing just to check out these the mortgage surveys. I think there's really good nuggets of information in here. It is hard to interpret. It's not always a perfect explanation. Stats tell you the story, but they only tell you part of the story. They don't tell you why necessarily. So it looks like there's definitely room for improvement in terms of our ability to what is that? Is that a comet? Is that an asteroid landing on a comet, landing on a spaceship? Where do you think, guys, when you look at this stuff, where do you think the biggest opportunity is for brokers? What do you think we need to pay the most attention to? What scares the pants off of you as a broker? And what do you think we need to do about it?
I think Jackson should take that one.
Jackson can start.
Well, obviously, looking at the recent stats and the release of them, broker market share is down. Why? Are you telling me that in this day and age where we've got education, we've got choice, we've got convenience, we've got the interwebs, that people are deciding to pay more money at their banks for the mortgage? Why? What is it about the banks that the banks are doing that is reaching out and striking a chord with people, and how is the broker channel, can we compete with that? I think the increase is, let me just see this, it's the mobile mortgage specialists. I mean, BMO, RBC, I heard Scotia's cutting a bunch of theirs, but I mean, they're throwing these mortgage specialists, mortgage agents, not brokers, out. You know, basically these road reps, and they're killing it. I mean, what's that chart say? Nearly 40% of buyers used a mobile mortgage specialist. That's interesting. That scares me as a mortgage broker. You know, yeah, we offer choice, convenience, counsel, customer service, all those good C words, but the banks are going straight into their living room, and they've got their bank accounts. You know, is it necessary for us as an industry to offer more products? I mean, we don't offer a line of credit product. We don't really offer credit cards. I mean, yeah, there's some small stuff, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not seeing this as a good trend.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it. I know one of the other things that surprised me, there was a percentage of people who were satisfied with their broker, and it was not good.
Well, I think we deal with this. We deal with this every day. Is that at the end of the day, I think at the end of the day, the clients don't truly understand. They don't truly know and understand the hoops that we have to jump through to get where we have to get, right, with them. I hear on a weekly basis, we never had to do this the last time. We never. And that simply comes down to the market's changed, but you got to remember they don't care, right? It's like them getting into their car one morning and turning on the key, and all of a sudden they got to do like a huckabuck move in the car to get the car to start instead of just turning the key. It's different. Times are different. Things are different. You know, explaining stuff to clients, they go, well, this is crazy. I don't know why this financial institution wants to know that. Well, because the rules have changed. These are the rules, and this is why it's changed. Now, maybe we're losing market share conventionally on the conventional side, because if it has to go to an insurer, I mean, you guys could probably agree, if you've got somebody coming into your office and you've got them a slam dunk good deal with 5 or 10% down, and it's, you know, the numbers are kind of like this on the ratios, and they go, this is crazy, I'm just going to walk into my branch. I don't know about you, but I go, okay, because you're going to experience the same thing. They're going to have like Bill or Nancy at the desk, right? And they're going to go, oh yeah, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And then in the 11th hour, you inevitably get a phone call going, you were right. Do we still have you as an option? And I don't know about you, but I keep those files open. I keep those files open, and I call those people. So I wonder if we're losing it on the conventional side, where maybe it doesn't have to be that neat and tidy for these institutions. The road reps on the road for banks, do I worry about them? No. I don't worry about them, just as I don't worry about agents in our business, because I think it's the 80-20 rule. You're going to have 80% of those road reps out there doing 1 or 2 deals a month. Are they really eating your lunch? Maybe by volume they are, because there's just so many of them. But if you really perfect your game, and I'll go back to my point before about online business, I'm still a big believer in dominating your community. Like, I think we've gone so far out that we need to turn back around and come right back into our inner circle, our city, like literally where your office is. Get a compass and draw like a 1.5 kilometers around that office and just dominate that area. Farm, visit business owners, like everything you got to do. So every time they drive to work or home, they see you, and that's who you are. They know you. Because Gord, you're out now, Edmonton. Yep. Nobody in St. John's, Newfoundland cares about you. Like, they might, and don't take that as an insult. Just take it as where are you? Like, I've had that moving up to Barrie. I've had people call me as a referral from people in Guelph, and they go, "Oh, you're not in Guelph anymore? Oh, okay." And you could just hear it in their voice. So, like, they want that connection. I think you got to connect locally. That's what I think.
Maybe. Yeah, and maybe it's all it different stories for different folks, for sure. You know, guys, one thing I haven't seen, maybe you've seen it and I just haven't caught it yet. One question I've got, I'd love to see the percentages broken down in terms of the number of consumers who used a broker for a pre-owned home. Is that the right word? Pre-owned home? An existing domicile as opposed to a new home. And I have a theory that mortgage brokers will pick up market share when construction slows down, because I think that big chunk of mobile mortgage specialists, which is also a big chunk of bank business. It looks like about 40% of bank business goes through a mortgage specialist. I think those guys dry up and die when the construction slows down because they're getting most of their business from builders. And most of the business they're getting from builders is because there's not so much tied selling, but heavily influenced selling, we'll call it. Coming from the builders and the way the contracts are written up and the influence that the lender has at the retail level. Agree or disagree?
Yeah.
I see Rob shaking his head, nodding. I mean, yeah, Scott?
Yeah, I can see that. What I'm seeing a lot of now in locally here is a lot of these pre-completions are coming up for completion, and people that wrote contracts 3-4 years ago, with all intents and purposes to close, are having a hard time closing because of all the rules that have changed.
I think I predicted that, actually. I think that was something we talked about on the show. I was worried for people who bought several years ago and had condos that were going to close in a number of years.
I've seen a lot of assignments come through over my desk. I've seen some of it's going private. Yeah, it's happening.
Are they now trying to flip those units before they take possession? Is that what they're?
Yeah, some of them has been because they're coming up and they can't close or they don't want to now or for whatever reason. Assign them off to family members, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And one of the more recent trends, I don't know if you've seen, is builders putting clauses in their contracts that people can't do that. They can't sell it prior to taking possession. Which maybe on those older contracts is not an issue, but I could see that being an issue going forward. Yeah, no surprise, I guess. Well, who was it that said if you can't touch it, don't buy it? It might have been one of my favorite quasi-economists like Ben Rabideau or Garther or something like that.
But it's a valid point, right? It's a valid point. I mean, I remember having somebody speak to me about buying a condo in Toronto. That was like 2.5 years away. True, this is 100% legit, true story. She called me. She put a deposit down. She needed to waive her financing in order to not lose her deposit because it was one of those deals like you lose your deposit if you're not going to waive your financing because it was so hot, right? This was probably 2012. The build was like 2.5 years away. She was looking for a rate hold, which I was like, yeah, hold on, let me check my rate sheet. And I put down the phone like a Muppet, like Ernie and Bert. And then I found out not only here fishy, and then not only was it 2.5 years away. Oh yeah, that's right. There was a multi-unit high-rise rental apartment building on the site of where the condo was being built currently. And I said to her, like, do you not see the risk in this? Like, A, you're going to lose your money. B, it's 2.5 years away. C, there's still a building there. They got to get everybody out. They got to demo it. They got to do environmentals. Like, I said, you know what, I'm surprised that this thing's going to close in 2.5 years, to be honest with you. Well, what do I do? I said, wasn't there a lender there? She said, yeah, there was an RBC. And I said, what are they offering you? And I honestly can't remember, but it was very competitive at that time for the rate lock. Yeah. And she said I already had the pre-approval. I'm like, what are you calling me for? Yeah. Take it and run. Like, you know. Anyway, little story from the Rob Campbell.
You gotta love long closings. I have a short closing story. I don't know if you guys have time. I know we're going long today, but I'm having a lot of fun. I feel like I haven't talked with you guys in a long time, so we're bouncing all over the place. But what's the shortest closing you've ever had anybody come to you and propose?
A day.
A day?
I think it's like 3 days I've had. Yeah.
I want to close tomorrow kind of thing, Rob?
Yeah.
What did you tell them?
They've done it. They've done it in the office here. I believe it was. I believe if somebody walked in and their other broker or bank dropped the ball at the very last minute, and I think it was a day. So just to confirm, it was like, let's say they came in on Monday morning at 9 a.m. and it wasn't closing until Tuesday at 5 p.m. and we got it. They brought everything in with them. We got it underwritten, approved. They waited in the office while it came back. Blah 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 blah. It was all done.
That's actually the best part about those deals that you pick up at the last minute is they usually have a full package for you.
Yeah.
So,
or you know that story already, right?
I had somebody approach me 3 days after it was supposed to be closed. Didn't get it done. It was a private deal, and it was not going to happen. But yeah, 3 days after it was supposed to be closed, they're like, "Can you do anything for us?" No, sorry, goodbye.
I had a client yesterday, and I love this client. He's like a fourth or fifth time client. He's a super laid back guy, awesome to work with. He's got a bunch of bucks in the bank. He's self-employed, which throws some monkey wrenches into things from time to time. But great guy, good client. And but he came to me yesterday and said, "Gordon, made an offer, unconditional. I take possession Monday." And I said, "Which Monday? This upcoming Monday or Monday in a month?" "No, this Monday. The offer's unconditional. There might be some water in the basement." Okay. Yeah. I think I bought it for lot value, but I'm not sure. Okay. Keeps getting better. What was the other thing? It's in it's a little small, 700 square feet. Okay, good. And we got chatting about it, and
Two words. National Bank.
No, that's 2 business days. And I said, "You do realize?" And this is the best part. He goes, "I'm going away tomorrow and coming back on the 2nd. Is that going to be a problem?" No, he closes on the 1st. I almost had an aneurysm. I was like, "Did you talk to did your realtor suggest that this was prudent?" "Oh yeah, well she didn't say anything was wrong with it, per se." So, okay.
Realtors.
Guess what? The sellers are also realtors. This is fun.
Of course.
Of course they are. They probably all work in the same office. I'm not sure. I haven't confirmed that fun fact yet. Well, this was the best part. I called the realtor, and I had to go and sit in a quiet room, turn off the lights, and constrain my rage for a little bit. And then I called the realtor, and I said, "What if we need an appraisal?" "Oh, you don't need an appraisal. It's not CMHC insured." That's why we need an appraisal. She has 7 years experience, this realtor. 7 years she's survived in the jungle. She sold realty for 7 years, then worked for a couple of builders, and now is back as a realtor, inflicting pain and punishment on society. And I'm just like, how do you still have a license? Anyway, that's my story. I called them. He had signed the acceptance. They were prepared, almost ready to present it to the seller. And I was like, "Please, just freeze. Just stop. Don't move. Don't go anywhere. Please change it." And she's like, "Well, I don't think we can change it. There's another offer." I said, "For the same day?" "Oh, no, for a later possession date."
There's always a backup offer. Always.
Yeah. You can't get 2 weeks. Can we go to 2 weeks? Please give me 2 weeks to get this done. No. Anyway, she did. Of course she did. No objections. 2 more weeks. I probably could ask for 2 more months on this place. But anyway, that's me venting. I've been venting about it for about a day and a half now. Everybody knows the story. Because
Just like that Disney Frozen movie.
Yeah.
Let it go. Let it go. Take a deep breath and let it go. Gentlemen, it is currently 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I am going to be stepping into a meeting shortly, so I might have to dodge out.
Wonderful. No, we should go. We should go. But I enjoyed seeing you guys again. Hope you're doing well. And for those of you watching, tell your friends about the stats. Figure out where the opportunities are in there, I would say. There's probably a few. I do a better job than the average, and it'll be good for business. Pretty simple. And we'll see you guys. Are we doing this every week still? Are we going to try again in a week? Are we going to do a Christmas episode? What's the plan?
Well, you know what? We'll probably. I think maybe we should try this every week until we lead up to the holidays, and then maybe consider going monthly in the new year just to change it up and have like 1 hour episodes maybe every month. with rock solid guests every single month. Because I'm sure the beautiful fans out in Canadian Mortgage Hangout.tv, Wonderland, appreciate our banter, but I'm pretty sure they also like when we have some pretty rock star guests on.
Important people. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Good stuff.
Cool.
Well, guys, have a good week. And
Good rest
All
of the
right.
week, guys.
take care.
Bye.
Goodbye.